Hey everybody, this is Prince Tyler. I am here with Ali RX, and we're just gonna talk about Godzilla minus one. How you doing, Ali?
Hey, what's good? It's all good.
Hell
Man.
yeah. So for those who have no idea for the countdown, so the music I got comes directly from the original Godzilla composer. His name was Akira Fukube. So the songs in alphabetical order for this countdown was like the original movie one from the opening titles. The next one was of course Ghidorah, the Tree of the Monsters for the opening titles too. And the last one was from War of the Gargantuas. So they're like three classic songs that I just personally enjoy listening to.
That is dope. That is his music is legendary, you know. God.
Absolutely. Of course, people say, like one of the aspects that I love about these Godzilla movies is, in fact, the music, besides the practical effects that they use for the Showa era movies. That the thing that really glues you to the screen, besides all of that, is the music and how they use music throughout the franchise. And that there's like no doubt that without his music, that we would not necessarily know the songs that we do know that are associated with Godzilla.
Yeah, the music just goes so hard, especially goes It sounds like Beavis and Butthead right now. Man, Godzilla songs always go so hard, man. Especially the old films.
So we got our first ever comment. This comment says right here, I seen the three Godzilla movies in theaters, Shin, Minus One, and King of the Monsters. I think you're referring to the one from 2019. Shin and Minus One makes King of the Monsters look like amateur work. You want to respond to that comment?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the King of the Monsters is an American work, and Toho knows how to get that done, especially minus one. Like that's probably the best Godzilla film since probably the 1954 original. Wow, like Godzilla minus one is a freaking masterpiece, pretty much. Like god damn, it is simply amazing, and with a tiny, ridiculously tiny budget. I mean, that is just incredible.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the budget for this particular movie was about less than $15 million.
Yeah, wow, unbelievable,
Yeah,
and it
so
looks amazing.
yeah, the thing about it though, like it broke so many box office records from the news reports that I've been reading. For example, it has broke the record, at least right now, and probably gonna change with the new Studio Ghibli movie. But for at least for right now, it broke the record for like the top grossing Japanese live action movie, the top grossing Japanese Godzilla movies, and these other kind of records. And it's just so strange to me. The budget is like one factor. It's like less than $15 million. But you have companies like Disney spending like hundreds of millions of dollars for their special effects, but the special effects don't necessarily look that great.
MCU movies are so bloated at both Marvel and DC. They're just the superhero movie genres. Their budgets are so bloated, and yet lately the movies are like and mediocre at best. Like, jeez, it's just sad. Two the Marvels had will cost like what 250 million, and it bombed. Wow, it's the movie just sucks.
I believe, if I was not mistaken, that for minus one, it even topped Wish, which I think came out more recently, at least at one point during all of this. And so it's kind of strange that Japanese movies right now are actually grossing the box office more, at least for this month, in comparison to movies here. So I guess the question then becomes, well, what do you think are the main reasons why movies like the new one that's coming out for Studio Ghibli, this one right here, why are these Japanese movies making more money, at least at this moment?
Um, they're just fun. They're just way too fun. Especially the Godzilla movie. They're just so fun, and people are just tired of the same garbage that Marvel, DC, Warner Brothers, and Disney put out. And minus one makes definitely makes Godzilla King of the blows away. Minus one blows away anything the MonsterVerse has put out in recently. Like that's just unbelievable.
I think for the case of the MonsterVerse, I think what they're trying to do, at least from my perspective, is that they're trying to replicate the early 60s movies in terms of delivery and also style. And I think for the case for more recently with Shin Godzilla, and for this one, they're trying to, replicate the style of the first movie. So it might be like, again, I think maybe that's what James, what was the guy? James Nintendo Nerd said that basically once they made it in Japan, it has something uniquely Japanese behind it.
Yeah, of course. There's like a certain like soul behind it. You know, it's the soul that the Japanese people put in. You know, there's just something magical. They create magic.
That's interesting because one thing that I have noticed is that, of course, the very last movie feature film that came out 2004 was Final Wars. It was like the last movie I noticed, at least for the Japanese side of things, that finally used like, the suitmation. But they tend to use the suitmation nowadays for these short movies because prior to this movie coming out, we had at least two shorts for Megalon. One was Operation Jaguar, and then the other one was like a remake, I think, a short for Megalon and CGI too. So, what do you think about those particular shorts when you saw those?
I don't think I recall seeing those two shorts recently. I do know that Final Wars was the last feature length film to have like a suitmation Godzilla. That yeah, but it was cool to have them as suitmation, but it was the end of an era. Kind of sad, but I'm fully embracing this new era of Japanese Godzilla from Toho. It's just incredible.
Right, because I think the only way they're using the suitmation nowadays is just as like the shorts, because I believe it was I think it was 2 years ago they did a short with Hedora, and they used the suits directly from Final Wars. And then I think it was last year they did like a similar short, but with Gigan, and they even had like a crowdfunding thing to have like a new built suit for Gigan for that particular short. And so it seemed as though that for the shorts they were using the Final War suit for Godzilla, but then building newer suits for these other monsters.
Recycling suits, this classic Tokusatsu style. Yep.
Right. So let's go into our experience in the movie theaters. So I think before we went live, we were just talking a little bit earlier about that. So let's go with your story first.
It was just an exciting moment to see, and the people in the theater were like cheering like every time Godzilla attacked, and when he got destroyed by the military, and then when his head blew off at the end by Koichi's kamikaze plane. Like it was just incredible. Everybody was cheering, and then at the end when he found out that Noriko was alive, everyone was happy and cheering, and then everyone was applauding. It was an incredible experience. It's just fun. The pacing, the way it's paced, and this is probably the best Godzilla movie to have like where the human characters are fleshed out just better than any other Godzilla movie. Like it's just incredible.
It's interesting you mentioned that the crowd at your theater were like, cheering during parts. Unfortunately, I did not necessarily have the same experience. Like I said prior to the live stream, like there was nobody around me. And so when I went to like, the ticket booth, I was like the only person asking for a ticket for that particular movie during November 28th because prior to the official release date, They had like test screenings that were earlier for by 2 days. And so I bought the ticket from the ticket stand. I went inside the empty movie theater. There was nobody around me. And so I could literally just sit any space, no matter where it's like the really, really front or the back, no matter what, because nobody was like watching it. And so it was like no sort of distractions whatsoever. There was like no babies crying at all. There was like no people using their cell phone. It was the perfect experience to just submerge myself into that particular universe. And very few movies when I go to the movie theaters have no people at all. And so, like, the only kind of experience where I had like nobody at the movie theater prior to this one was for Grindhouse, and that was like 2007.
And the empty theater is probably perfect for like bootleggers who want to record movies with their phone or something and then upload it online.
Right, right. So getting back, you mentioned earlier about the characters and the importance of the characters in the movie because there are plenty of, even this one, I agree that the movie has really strong characters, but I think it's not like, just this movie too, because there has been plenty of like, cool characters that I found interesting. Of course, the very first movie that came out in 1954, I think my favorite character of that one is Dr. Serizawa, obviously, because the first of all, I like the fact that he had like the eye patch in the original movie and his tragic backstory on why he wanted to use the oxygen destroyer against Godzilla. And like another character that I like in the franchise prior to this movie was Kasura from the Terror of Mechagodzilla, where she's like the half human, half robot because she was electrocuted, I believe, before she turned to like a robot. And that kind of backstory on how she was the remote control for Mechagodzilla was also very powerful too. Are there any other characters that you kind of like prior to this movie?
Hmm. Let me think of not off the top of my head. I'm trying to think. I think the characters from like the original 1954 one were kind of written with like World War II in mind because the experience in World War II and the way the characters are fleshed out. It kind of yeah.
Right. So getting back to the characters, like at the very beginning of the movie, and by the way, guys, this is a spoiler discussion, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, go somewhere else. So at the very beginning of the movie, it caught my attention immediately because immediately Godzilla is just a threat. So we get introduced to the character who happens to be the kamikaze pilot. And during the whole entire beginning half, what happens is that Godzilla goes out his way to attack all these people at this military base. I remember particularly that he was using his mouth to lift up people from the ground to the sky and lift them up to the sky.
Yeah, that was insane. Oh man.
That was crazy.
Oh man, Godzilla did a lot of crazy shit in the film. Like when I love when his quills they transform into blue and he's gonna blow his atomic breath. That just looks cool because it doesn't start off looking blue. It glows. Like one grows up and it glows, and the other one comes, and then he finally blows his atomic breath. It's just absolutely incredible. And what shocked me the most is that he could regenerate after getting attacked by the military. Like he had his face all scarred up, but he was able to regenerate easily. Like that effect is just so cool.
Yeah, that's interesting because it seems as though that during the beginning of that movie, he's already like, giant. He already mutated to be a giant. And then when you compare that to Shin Godzilla, it's like his evolution was gradual. Because in Shin Godzilla, he was just this sort of monster that looked so strange. He did not stand up straight. He was just attacking people. And gradually over time, because he was just yelling, that's how he began to stand up straight. This one, he was just standing up straight without
Yeah,
the. Oh, yeah.
Godzilla right from the get go.
Yeah.
True form.
Right, but the thing about the kamikaze pilot character is that he had like rescue, I believe, this orphan. It was like a little girl, and then he also has some sort of love interest throughout the movie, and he's determined to make sure that the war is not necessarily over yet. Now, there are some themes that I noticed that are like, direct references or homages to other franchises of the Godzilla movies, or maybe for other American movies too. So, like, what are some stuff that you recognize that come directly from other movies or might make the reference to other Godzilla movies?
My let me think. I need to see the movie again. I didn't catch a lot of the references.
Like, for example, there was this one scene where they were fighting Godzilla on a boat, and when I saw that particular scene, I thought they were making a direct reference to Jaws.
Oh, yeah. I see now. Yeah.
Right, because so what happened was, like, of course, they had like the barrels of like the bombs. They put in like in the water. They wanted to put in like Godzilla's mouth, and so they were shooting at his mouth. They blow up the bombs, but of course, it's like a twist to that whole entire motif.
That's actually pretty clever.
Right, it's like something interesting because we don't necessarily see Godzilla in the water that much. I think it's like very few times in the franchise where he just goes out and attack people underneath the water.
Um, and yeah, he attacked underwater. And that was it was also especially at the very end when they tried to like suppress him and try
Mhm.
to kill him. And then that's when he also attacked. Yeah.
There was also a direct reference, not necessarily a visual reference, but just a music reference. For example, when he was going out to attack the train in some sort of, I guess, Japanese city. I can't remember which city, but basically they were playing, I think, a song from Mantra versus Godzilla during that whole entire part. And I believe during the second part in the boats, they were playing like the King Kong versus Godzilla's theme song too.
Wow, that's an interesting reference to catch. Wow. I,
Right.
this movie's full of Easter eggs.
Yeah, like I guess maybe I just saw them because I like know like the franchise behind my head. So I was like, wait a second, they're referring to this, they're referring to Jaws, they're referring to that.
And Godzilla making a Jaws reference, and the funny thing is, Jaws came years after the Godzilla movie started.
I believe that Steven Spielberg at some point said that he was actually inspired by Godzilla movies to make Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. They're dinosaurs.
Right. I mean, of course, Jaws' influence is like, undeniable for like other movies too, besides this one, because you can see that with Piranha, you can see it with the sequel to Jaws. There's like a movie that I saw last year. It was called Beast. It's basically like Jaws, but like on land.
Oh, that's funny.
It's like so the whole entire movie was like just lion just attacking humans, and like it's supposed to be like the same concept, but on like I said, but on land.
Jaws without the water. Like
Yeah.
kind of that's an interesting approach. Like how would they do like the swimming part where he just shows his fin like he's hides in the bushes instead.
Right. So, because I saw this movie on the biggest screen possible, that whole entire part where he was using his atomic ray, I can kind of felt the impact of it when I was watching it. What about you?
Oh, I definitely felt the impact. Unbelievable. Like boom, and the way the surround sound in the theater just it was incredible.
Right.
And then there was the part where the movie went silent after he attacked, and then the explosion came out. Yeah.
Right. Now, so basically, the performer, I think the director for this movie was actually involved in other productions prior to this one, because I saw that video clip before for about Always 2, where he basically had like a Godzilla opening prior to doing this movie. And I also believe that he did some sort of theme park movie involving Godzilla prior to making this one too.
Oh.
He was also, I believe, the director of this movie right here.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. He's Takashi Yamazaki. That's his name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it's really interesting. So it's like, okay, he has a long history of doing this, and I guess Toho made him the director. I believe prior to it being announced as the Godzilla movie, it was announced that he was going to do a movie for Toho, but it turns out to be this one.
Yeah.
But getting back to the characters of the movie, like basically when the whole entire attack of Godzilla with the train happened, it seemed to apply in the movie that the love interest of the main kamikaze fighter was basically dead. But towards the end of the movie, like that kind of like hurt, like makes you want to cry a little bit when you watch
Yeah,
it.
I'm not gonna lie, I did tear up just a little bit, but I also noticed something. Noriko, the his love interest, she has a tattoo on her neck or some kind of mark on her neck. Maybe it's not actually her, or maybe she was revived in some different form. I don't know. There's something sus about that. Very, very sus.
Right. It's like, he basically. So, what happened prior to that scene, right? If I remember correctly, was that it seemed to imply that he was not going to make it when he flight the plane into Godzilla, but he did, in fact, make it because one of the people told him to stay alive, and he actually did stay alive. And it made the scene even more impactful when the movie ended.
Yeah, that was the one they got when they got the letter with the money inside. I think. Yeah, and that turned out to be from Noriko. Yep.
Right.
uh,
Right, and I'm not sure about you, but when you saw that ending where Godzilla was underneath the sea, do you think it's like a hint for a sequel to come? Because I think so.
I think it's gonna come. Godzilla -2.
Mhm.
Or yeah, whatever it's called. But yeah, I expect a sequel coming. And you can feel it coming. That there's more to the story, especially with Noriko. Yeah, Noriko and Godzilla regenerating. You got the feeling that we're gonna see more to the story. It's not over. Far from it. Far from over.
Yeah, if there's going to be like a potential sequel, like what's your personal expectation for the sequel?
Ah, I think Godzilla comes back and we start to see more development with Noriko. Like you might see some sort of suspicious things happening, and maybe we'll see like her true form by the end of it, end of the film, end of the sequel.
Mhm.
Yeah, she might start to act differently.
There was like this leaked sequel synopsis that I heard about for Shin Godzilla, where the original pitch directly from the directors of it was that they had intentions to remake the second Godzilla movie, where they wanted to have Anguirus back in the franchise. But for some strange reason, Toho decided to cancel that particular idea when they pitched it.
Huh, that's interesting. It would have been cool if it came to fruition.
Yeah,
Uh,
and also, I guess my own personal expectation. If they're gonna make a sequel to this one, I think what they're gonna do is just up the amp, like the terror, because basically it cannot just have Godzilla again attacking. It has to be like another monster that provokes Godzilla to attack, and that monster.
right. I could see another monster coming in the sequel, most likely. Maybe it's Noriko. She becomes the monster to fight Godzilla.
Yeah, and speaking about these other kind of projects, well, besides this one and the shorts that I also mentioned before, there are like two other things that were announced. The first thing was obviously that trailer for Kong versus Godzilla, the new Empire. What do you think about that trailer?
Oh, I think I'm definitely excited to see that Godzilla X Kong, and it's coming early next year, I think. Yeah, I don't recall seeing Godzilla versus Kong back in 2021. I think it was during COVID when it came out. I think I missed it when it came out in theaters. Yeah, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this one.
There
Yeah.
was this one part that really stood out to me because this part towards the end of the trailer, where basically both King Kong and Godzilla were just running together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely tell they were just gonna have some sort of Megalon vibes to it. By the way, if you watch one of the Megalon shorts that came out this year, there was one part where you remember the original movie with the flying kick, right?
Yeah.
They redid that for one of the shorts.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that kick. It's just like a flying drop kick.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, that movie is Criterion certified.
As it should be.
Yeah, I would say yeah, those shorts are pretty good, but there's also yeah, the whole entire show for Monarch. Have you seen any of these episodes from Monarch?
Mordor? No, I haven't. No, honest, no.
I think at least the first episode is free if you don't yeah, like you don't need to buy like an account or anything to see the first episode at least.
Okay. Nice.
But I think when I saw that first episode, it takes itself really serious and seems to be more character driven. I'm not gonna spoil the whole entire first episode, but it centers mostly about a young woman wanting to know the past about her father. That's most of the episode. That's all the details I'm gonna give for you.
Uh, I'll check it out. I'll definitely check it out. It's probably a must see. Uh, I gotta check it out.
Right. So I guess there's like this sort of maybe divide for like the MonsterVerse. Like, should it be taken more seriously, more grounded, like the first ever movie that came out, or like the Kong Skull Island, or should it be more goofy, like we see for Kong for the King Kong movies and Godzilla? Like, what's your thoughts about that?
Um, I guess like a mix of them, like have a little bit of goofiness while also having serious action and strong characters. Like it's always good to have like a middle ground when an appropriate kind of middle ground that works really well.
Right, I believe the director mentioned in an interview for the King Kong and Godzilla movies that he wanted to experiment with the idea where there's going to be long, extended scenes where the monsters just interact without any type of humans at all for 8 minutes straight. And so they're going to try to experiment that with the new King Kong and Godzilla movie.
So it's just straight up monster fighting and
Yeah.
not much movie human interactions. I think people in the theater are gonna have a lot of fun with that.
So I
Pure
guess
fun.
right, right. So overall, like, what would you give this movie out of 10? Like, like a 1 to 10, like, what's the number for you?
10 out of 10, but that's probably too generous. I love this movie. It's a must see. It's mandatory to watch. You gotta see it.
Right, I think my personal score would probably be just an 8 out of 10. I would definitely say, like, if I have like a list of my top Godzilla movies for beginners, it would be the first one, it would be this movie, and it'll be Shin Godzilla. Those are my top three for beginners.
Ah, yeah,
I mean, we have like a top three for beginners for the franchise for the first time.
yeah. Of course, top three. Like this is probably pretty high on that list. I got the Nice 54, the -1, and I guess one of the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla movies, the originals, or Terror
Mhm.
Mechagodzilla, and yeah, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Oh, and let me think. Yeah, and Godzilla 2000. That's another classic.
I think last month they did re-release it in theaters for Godzilla 2000.
I heard about that. I gotta go see that. I want to see the re-release if I can. If there is a theater playing it.
I mean, right now there's like ton of re-releases of these old movies. I think for this month they're doing the same thing for Die Hard.
Ah, yeah, because it's the holiday season. You know, Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Right. You know, I think there's like this one Christmas movie that I seen with my family during Thanksgiving. And it was actually what was it? Silent it was called Silent Night, where Santa Claus basically brutalized people because during the same day of like Christmas Eve, like he basically there's like a bunch of robbers that wanted to like a rob like a family. And so like a little girl wished for Santa Claus to just butcher these bad guys. It's like that's like a good movie too.
Yeah, I think I saw the trailers for that. I gotta see it. It's like Christmas horror movies. I do love Christmas themed horror movies. That's just it. That just makes things a lot more interesting.
And by the way, I would recommend Thanksgiving as well. That's a really good movie too.
Oh yeah, that came out last month. I haven't seen it yet. I gotta see that one.
Right. Well, anyway, that's I guess the whole entire chat. Be sure to check out LEEX and the description box down below. Is there any final words you want to say before we sign out?
Um, just highly recommend if you haven't seen Godzilla -1 in theaters yet, please go see it. You're missing out if you can find a theater that plays it. I mean, what you just gotta go see it. And when it comes out on if you can't see it in theaters, then wait till it comes out on Blu-ray and definitely get it on Blu-ray.
I also heard even more recently that they announced it for Amazon Prime once the theatrical run is going to be over. So even if you miss it out in the theater, you can see it on Amazon as soon as possible. But this theater is not this like it's like a whole separate experience at this theater than just using your phone to watch it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it just won't be the same when watching it at home. Even if you have like surround sound in your house, like the theater experience, it needs to be seen in theaters. It's just way too immersive. You will be hooked on it. You will be glued. I guarantee you, it's gonna be magical.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, and thanks everybody for watching. And until next time, take care, everybody, and watch this movie as soon as possible.